In September 2015, the world-learned German automaker Volkswagen had installed illegal software in 11 million cars. It was designed to conceal excess emissions during testing. The diesel cars were sold worldwide between 2008 and 2015. 6 Volkswagen employees were charged in the United States over the scandal. Volkswagen settled with American regulators and car owners for about $20 billion. But its problems may not be over.
German prosecutors last week said that Volkswagen CEO Matthias Müller is under investigation. They are looking at whether he kept investors in the dark about the emissions scandal. Porsche, a subsidiary of Volkswagen, denied the allegations. The New York Times European economics correspondent Jack Ewing covered this entire story, and he gives a behind-the-scenes look in a new book called Faster, Higher, Farther: The Volkswagen Scandal. We reached out to VW for comment about the book, but have not yet heard back. Jack, good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, incredible reporting. Congratulations on what you've done here. You start the book with a story of a group of West Virginia University researchers. What are they doing? Explain.
Yeah, well, they had a grant just to test some cars in the United States, diesel cars sold by Volkswagen and BMW. The idea was just to see whether these cars could meet U.S. standards. And so they took them out on the road, which was not something that had been done before, and very quickly noticed some very funny results. The emissions were way higher on the road than they were when the same cars were tested in the lab.
These were nitrogen oxide levels?
Yeah, nitrogen oxide levels, which is a very harmful gas.
That's why you got to mention Dan Carter, who made the Time 100 influential list, because without Dan Carter, you wouldn't have a book and we wouldn't really know about this scandal.
That's right. Dan Carter was the guy who managed the team at West Virginia University, oversaw the research, and he was the one that really got the ball rolling, that uncovered the scandal.
What was it they did? They installed illegal software?
Yeah, the software could recognize when the car was on rollers in a garage being tested. And when that was the case, then it cranked up the pollution controls so that it would pass the test. And the rest of the time, the cars polluted more than a long-haul diesel truck.
And executives apparently knew this was happening.
Well, certainly up to a certain level, they knew it was happening. They were involved. And what we don't know is how much further it went up. You mentioned that there's now an investigation against the CEO.
And what has this done to Volkswagen, both in terms of the compensation it's had to pay out as well as reputation?
It certainly hurt the reputation. They're still trying to get their sales back in the United States. Sales in the rest of the world are kind of flat. They haven't collapsed. I think the biggest problem for Volkswagen is the cost is taking away money that they need to be spending on new technologies, because there's a big shift coming in the auto market.
But at the end of the day, Jack, Dan is the other guy. At the end of the day, why did they do it? Because they didn't make a lot of money for it, and the people that were involved in it, so it didn't make the company money, and the people involved, they didn't make money.
They were desperate to get back market share in the United States, and the way they thought they would do that was by selling diesels as an environmentally friendly technology. Yeah. But the engineers realized that they couldn't make the cars compliant with the U.S. rules, and so they came up with this cheat. I think they probably meant it as a short-term stopgap, but then it became a habit.
You know, it's funny, I lived in Germany for 2 years growing up, so my parents always liked diesel cars. We had VW diesel cars growing up forever because the diesel gas was cheaper for a period of time, and they thought it was green. I mean, they bought kind of that message. But you point out that an MIT study found that from 2008 to 2015 will lead to 1,200 premature deaths in Europe.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think the figure may even be higher. There was a study out last week by the International Council on Clean Transportation, and they put the number at 38,000 worldwide from excess diesel nitrogen oxide emissions. That's above what's actually allowed by law.
How is this behavior different from other scandals like this?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the money wasn't the motivation. If you look at the banking scandals, it was usually people who were trying to get big bonuses to make money. And this was just about trying to defend market share, and I think meet the expectations that top management had set for the employees. The people who did this were really just trying to hang on to their jobs.
No, you said, go ahead, Joe.
No, and how did you get onto the story? You may have said this, but...
Well, I wasn't the guy who wrote the story. That was the EPA, was the one who put out a notice of violation.
So you just read this story and seemed interested in it.
Right, but then, you know, I started pursuing it and with other New York Times colleagues and was able to talk to some of the people involved, so on.
But you really describe it really well. All corporate scandals stem at least in part from unrealistic targets coupled with draconian consequences for employees who fail to deliver.
Yeah, and you see the same thing.
They set the environment, yeah.
Right. Enron, more recently Wells Fargo, I think they all have that element in common.
All right, Jack Ewing, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations.